And here we are once again, 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 26. Then said Eliakim the son of Hilkiah, and Shebna, and Joah, and Rabshakeh, Speak, I pray you, your servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it. And talk not with us in the Jews' language in the ears of the people who are on the wall. But Rabshakeh said unto them, Has my master sent me to your master and to you to speak these words? He has not sent me to the men which sit on the wall, that they may eat their own dung and drink their own urine with you. Notes. That leaves a pretty bad taste in your mouth. Well, it's supposed to. These are verses of contempt. Verse 28. Then Rabshakeh stood and cried with a loud voice in the Jews' language, and spoke, saying, Hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. Notes. History scarcely presents any other instance of such coarse and barefaced effrontery. I mean, this guy's pretty bad. Verse 29. Thus saith the king, Let not Hezekiah deceive you, for he shall not be able to deliver you out of his hand. Neither let Hezekiah make you trust in the Lord, saying, The Lord will surely deliver us, and this city shall not be delivered into the hand of the king of Assyria. Note, he's basically he's appealing for a surrender for the people of Jerusalem. It is useless, he continues, for them to depend on God. Verse 31, let's see how useless it is. Hearken not to Hezekiah, for thus saith the king of Assyria, Make an agreement with me by a present, and come out to me, and then eat ye every man of his own vine, and every one of his own fig tree, and drink ye every one of the waters of his cistern. Notes, in other words, you can avoid the war if you just simply come under my control. You can eat and drink and be merry. It's all been a bad dream if you just simply surrender. Yeah, sounds like a real wonderful idea. Verse 32. Until I come and take you away to a land like your own land, a land of corn and wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of oil, olive, and of honey, that you may live and not die. And hearken not unto Hezekiah when he persuades you, saying, The Lord will deliver us. Notes. In other words, all of Jerusalem and Judah will be taken captive into a foreign land. Evidently, Rabshakeh knew something of Jehovah and of Hezekiah's faith. Verse 33. Has any of the gods of the nations delivered at all his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Notes. We have a big mistake right here. Rabshakeh is equating the Lord God of Israel with the other heathen gods of other countries which were easily defeated by Assyria. Well, no wonder. They didn't really have a god. They had a statue or a painting or something like that. Utterly ridiculous. Verse 34. Where are the gods of Hamath and of Arphad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim, Hena, and Ivah? Have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Notes. Rabshakeh is claiming that no god had hitherto delivered any city which the Assyrians had attacked. Well, coincidentally, they didn't have any god to protect them. Verse 35. Who are they among all the gods of the countries that have delivered their country out of the hand, that the Lord should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? Notes. Produce an example of deliverance, is what Rabshakeh means to say. Before you speak of deliverance as probable or even possible, is what he's saying. This heathen field commander cannot conceive the idea that Jehovah is anything but a local god on a par with all the other gods of the countries which incidentally Assyria has defeated. Now he's about to make a very big mistake. Verse 36. But the people held their peace and answered him not a word, and they shouldn't have. For the king's commandment was, saying, Answer him not. Notes. Just from that verse right there, it seems to me like Hezekiah had been expecting something like this, so he forewarns the people, just zip it and ignore it. Anyways, 37. Then came Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, which was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph the recorder, to Hezekiah with their clothes rent, and told him the words of Rabshakeh. Notes. They didn't rend their clothes because of grief or because of alarm, but they did it more because of Rabshakeh's blasphemies. Chapter 19, continuing. And it came to pass, when King Hezekiah heard it, that he rent his clothes, and covered himself with sackcloth, and went into the house of the Lord. Notes. Well, the renting of clothes referred to a total lack of dependence on one's own ability or in Judah's strength. It could also be used for contempt and anguish or other extreme emotions. The word sackcloth, though, refers to his humbling himself in the sight of God. The house of the Lord refers to the temple, of course, where God dwelt in the holy city of the Holy of Holies, between the mercy seat and the cherubim. The only help for Judah was really from God. Likewise, the only help for us today is from God. But how so far removed are we from total dependence on Him? As well, our petition must be clothed in humility, or God simply will not hear it. Verse 2. And he sent Eliakim, which was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and the elders of the priests, covered with sackcloth, to Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz. Notes. This is the very first mention of the prophet Isaiah in the Bible. However, Hezekiah was the fourth king in whose reign Isaiah had prophesied. You can read that in Isaiah 1:1. The passages in the book of Isaiah which refer to these events are chapter 10, verse 5 through 19, chapter 14, verse 24 through 27, chapter 22, verse 1 through 25, little belts there, chapter 36, verse 1 through 37. Quite a meal I had there. Verse 3. And they said unto him, Thus saith Hezekiah, This day is a day of trouble and of rebuke and blasphemy, for the children are come to the birth, and there is not strength to bring forth. Notes. The idea is, within herself, Judah has no strength, and they must truly look to the Lord. They're like a baby. They can't really truly defend themselves without God. Verse 4. It may be the Lord your God will hear all the words of Rabshakeh, whom the king of Assyria his master has sent to reproach the living God, and will reprove the words which the Lord your God has heard. Wherefore lift up your prayer for the remnant who are left. Notes. It is the prayer of Hezekiah that God has heard the blasphemy of Rabshakeh, would note it, and would punish it. A smart guy, really. He's taking notes and saying, listen, this is what this little mealy-mouthed punk off over here is saying about you. You gonna let him get away with that? Sounds kind of familiar nowadays, don't it? Verse 5. So the servants of the king Hezekiah came to Israel. And Isaiah said unto them, Thus shall you say to your master, to Hezekiah, Thus saith the Lord, Be not afraid of the words which you have heard, with which the servants of the king of Assyria have blasphemed me. Notes. Well, this is the Lord's word to His people is, Be not afraid. Well, regrettably, most of the modern church is going to a humanistic psychologist instead of going to the Lord, and thus they have plenty of reasons to be afraid. Verse 7. Behold, I will send a blast upon him, and he shall hear a rumor, and shall return to his own land, and I will cause him to fall by the sword in his own land. Notes. This would be fulfilled to the letter, but it would happen gradually over time. And speaking of time, we will have to pick up at another time. At chapter 19, verse 8 of 2 Kings. Thank you, and I hope to hear from you and see you soon. Goodbye. God bless.